Welcome to another episode of Tips and Tricks. I'm Barb Owen of HowToGetCreative.com, and I'm so glad you joined me for this episode of how to preserve kid art, or some ideas about how to preserve kid art and perhaps even use it for other things. So I thought that first of all, I would give you some tips about a couple of really obvious things, but maybe you haven't thought about it because, kids can overwhelm you with their art projects sometimes. But one of the main ones is just, keep it. How obvious is that, right? So here is an example. This is an art project from a high school art project that my son did. And I don't know what it's made of, some kind of clay that I think was probably fired or something. But I liked it and I kept it because it honors the artist, the budding artist. So that's one thing you can do. Here's another little piece. This is a little bitty piece. This is made by my son when he was very small, and it's made of mud. Literally mud or clay that he got. You can still see some of the straw and stuff that's in there. Stuff that he got from the backyard, and he just fashioned this little creature guy. He called him Pedro, I think. But all these years later, this has never had anything done to it, but all these years later, it's just done perfectly. It has survived all the years of hanging on to it. So another thing you can do is, accumulate a file or just have something where you just continue to keep, the most important pieces of kid art. And I'm just going to leaf through a few of these. And it's really great if you're doing art with children, have them be sure to sign their work and have them put a date on it. And if it has a title, by all means, have them add the title. These are some of my favorite pieces that I've kept over the years. So I just thought I'd flip through these. These are done by 3 different kids. I love this little guy. Looks like he's a creature, obviously. He might be a squirrel. He could be a beaver. He could be in a forest. Looks like he's on a tree branch. I'm not sure. And there's even art on the backside. There's another one. Another guy. And yet another one. That particular child was into creatures and robots. Went through the stage where that was really important. And here's another one. And this one had a title. He called it Crystal Lake. And so we had him write the title on it. So you see all the pieces and parts. I love how kids do sun. They do the sun. And almost all kids do it about the same way. Always with a name and a date. And in this case, the year that he was in school. This was called Crystal Lake. And another one. Again, this one had a title. This was called Star Planet. And this would be a pretty cool basis for some other art projects also that I'm going to give you some ideas about. And here's another one. This is by a little girl. And this was done in 2003. She was in 5th grade when she did that. This is a great piece for future art projects, as a basis for art projects. And here, same little girl. This was done much earlier. And the next piece I'm going to show you is a little bit hard to see because it's very light in color. But you'll see this used here in just a minute for other pieces. So you'll see more of what's in this. So that's the first thing. Just keep it. Now, if you don't want to keep all of it, keep some of it, keep kids' artwork. What else can you do with it to preserve it? Well, you can hang it on your refrigerator. I had those paper pieces of artwork on my refrigerator literally for years. That's why they're so yellowed with age. But I had those for years. What else can you do with it? Well, you can frame it. So you can take some of the best pieces that you really like These were done by my son when he was in an art class, and I love them. And again, signature and date. This is, I think, acrylic paint, as I recall. But I love them, and so I have framed them and put them in our hallway. Again, they've hung there for a long time. Here's another piece. But nothing says to a child that you value what they do and encourages them to keep being creative, like honoring it someplace in your home. Put it, on the refrigerator. Put it in the hallway. Hang it up. Just make sure that you have it someplace preserved so that people and the child knows that you value their work. You can take the same artwork now and you can turn it into something else. So we've kept it, we've framed it, now I'm going to turn it into something else. So it's a cool thing to be able to do too. And it's fun and it's extremely creative. So in this case, I combined this drawing, the basis for this drawing, and this one, elements of this one, and they were done at 2 different times, but they worked together really well, and so I turned it into a little art quilt. And so I've got everything is fabric on here, the whole thing is fabric, and then it's framed using yarn as the framework. So it's not, it's not been bound, it's not been faced or anything, it's framed using the yarn treatment as the binding, as it were. It's the finish for the piece. And then on the back, I remembered as she was growing up, music was important to her. So I found this fabric that had music notes and treble clef signs and so forth. And so I put that on the back, and she loved pink. And so it's just, some of my favorite memories as she was growing up. So you can you can use the artwork and turn it into something else. Again, it preserves their art in a different way. So that's using it with fabric. You could also turn it into paper. And in this case, this is all pieces of paper. And in this case, I didn't have to do anything to the size of the original image except trace it. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. I traced the image, and so this may look larger, but it's exactly the same size as this. Once you put it on the different background, it takes on a different size. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to show you. On the fabric piece down here at the bottom, I kept her signature as close to her writing as possible, because I wanted to preserve her handwriting, not only the art, but also the handwriting. So this is all done in paper. Everything is paper. And I took some liberties with combining elements from the 2 art pieces that I had. So I did the little figure. I took a couple of flowers. I took part of the sun from the other one. In this case, I made the grass straight across like she had done. So that's what I did there. Where on the fabric piece, I used 3 separate greens to kind of give some interest to the basis, and did some stitching, some vertical stitching on this so you could really see. It was just something different. So you can do that. Another really fun way to preserve their art, if you have, an appropriate piece, is to preserve it in metal. So this is the same little girl, same art piece, and this time it's been cut out of metal. So it's been cut out of copper and brass and a little bit of silver, and then put the face on by denting the metal and then putting a little paint in it. And then this can be put on a piece of ball chain, which I love for things like this. I think it's a absolutely perfect way to display a piece like this. Or you could put it on a fancy, pretty cording or whatever. But this could be a piece of jewelry. It could be a charm. It could be all kinds of things. And they even have, you can buy this chain at the hardware store, or you can also buy it through the idea-ology line in the craft section. It comes in different colors. But that is a great way to preserve kids' artwork also, is to translate it into metal. Now I want to give you a couple of little hints, just some ideas, some tips and tricks, and a couple of things I find real helpful when I'm working on stuff like this. One is to use tracing paper. So this is Strathmore tracing paper. It is about the consistency, it's kind of in between tissue paper and vellum, and you'll find the links for this below in the description. But it's a very thin paper, and when you're working with a design, after you have your design all laid out the way you want it, for example, now it could be this size. I mean, I use it in all different sizes. So I most always work with the tracing of whatever I'm doing. So using the tracing paper is really handy. Then if you need to get it onto paper and you don't want to tear up or cut up your pattern, your tracing, then one of the things that I use a lot is a light box. And so this, you can buy light boxes. You can also use your window as a light box. Let me get something over that so it doesn't blind you, people. Sorry about that. You can tape things up on the window, and you can use the natural light coming through the window. But I'm going to tell you, I will come back to my light box again and again and again. Get this over here where you can really see. Now you see how the light coming from the light box up through the tracing paper, and then you can use that and draw right through that. So you don't have to destroy your pattern back here. You can just use your light box and you can see through it, and it makes it convenient. And there's all different ways to make light boxes and to do all kinds of stuff, but I will tell you, I come back to this little piece of equipment more times than I could possibly tell you. So we'll turn that off. So hopefully that's given you some ideas for different things that you can do to preserve the art from the kids in your life. I call it kid art because I think that kid art is just it's the best. And if you don't have your kids or your grandkids or whoever, could be a neighbor kid, if they're not doing some kind of creative artistic activity, please encourage them and then honor them by turning it into something or framing it or keeping it on your refrigerator or whatever. So I really appreciate you joining me today. I hope that you'll join me on the live broadcast this week, which is on Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Creating Faces channel, and you'll find the link in the description below. And on that broadcast, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to take kid art and turn it into different ways of using it with paper. So that's going to be fun. I can't wait to do that. And you can use it for note cards or ATCs or whatever you want to do. But anyway, it's going to be fun. So thanks for joining me today, and I will see you hopefully over on the live stream on Friday. Hope you have a great day. Remember to get creative because it's easy. And I'll see you next time on the next episode of Tips and Tricks. Bye.